We are live. Hello and welcome to the DrivingMaul show here on New Zealand Sports Radio. Just a couple of technical fun and games there with the old buttons. Look, we are going to be... last week we had a head coach from Manuira Rugby Club, and this week we have got someone from Poverty Bay to come and join us in the second half of the show. So Barnard is going to come and have a chat with us about what's been going on over there in Poverty Bay in the club scene. So do stick around for that. The second half of the shows, hopefully over the next few weeks, are going to be dedicated to Club Rugby. The first half, we'll be looking at world news and all of that kind of stuff. And joining me to do that this evening is Arswin. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, I'm doing all right. Yeah, not too bad at all. But I know what you mean. Like, I did that a couple of weeks ago. Hit the old go live button, and it's like, are we live? Are we live?
Well, it didn't say it was going live, and then the go live button was, so I clicked it again, and then it comes up with end broadcast. I'm like, oh no! It's going to be a very short show, but hey. Look, let's jump right into the news then, and folks, don't get worried. It is Arswin, even if he is wearing a Jim's jacket there. He just nicked it off Jim, who does a test and tagging. That's how he keeps himself warm. So let's kick on with the news then. So Silver Lake, this is D-Day week. Thursday is the meeting of the provinces where they get to vote. And decide, do they want the cash or do they not want the cash? I think we can fairly safely say they're going to say, we want the cash. Super Rugby, well, one of the Super Rugby chairman apparently said on the quiet that essentially New Zealand Rugby would last for about 5 years without this cash injection and would effectively then be over.
This is my point from a few weeks ago. Was the fact is that really the NZRFU's in no situation got no other option but to say yes, because at the end of the day there is no other party out there that's willing to throw this kind of dollars at them, and without these dollars, rugby's pretty much at that top level stuffed, and then who knows what the impact will be going down.
Well, that's part of the. I did read an interesting LinkedIn post that said, "Hey, look, 25 years ago we went professional to stop our players from going overseas, and we've just seen player numbers dropping, and we're just going to take some more money to even more professionalize the game, and even make it more about fewer people, and watch less and less people support the game, and just do we end up in a spiral downwards?"
Look, I mean, that comes down to a governance model. Really, tell you the truth, is the fact is that. Actually, at the end of the day, the dollars will be there, and if they reset themselves correctly, then they can actually promote the game like they need to do at the grassroots level as well as the professional level, and not just focus on that professional level. At the moment, they've only got the funds to focus at that professional level. Would that be fair to say, really?
Yeah, well, yes and no. I guess it depends on. Let's be honest. We've looked at one of the things we did. Month and a half, maybe 2 months ago now. We looked at the board breakdown of New Zealand Rugby, and essentially said that look, community rugby, which includes women's rugby, junior rugby, club rugby, has one representative there, and the All Blacks have two. Gives you an idea as to where the focus is of the board, and the board is a group that make all the decisions. So at the end of the day, you say it's about governance. Could they be doing more in the club and community space at the moment with the money they've got? Absolutely, they could. But that's not where their focus is. Their focus is on making sure the All Blacks win the World Cup and are the best team in the world. And that's been quite publicly said. Back in '97ish, I think it was, when they sort of made that statement that look, we have to keep them. And because that's where the money comes in from, you understand. You can see why the argument is there. But it is about what is your focus, and we can see what their focus is from that.
See, I mean, like what Simon's sort of saying, that the fans could raise a bit of money. It's just like, no, I don't think we understand the level of revenue that is required to try and make try and keep our players so we don't have so many going overseas, and we've got a chance of keeping some over here and having a better competition over here and running community rugby. I don't think people actually understand the levels of funding that's actually required to do that. I think, from a few years ago, and COVID's obviously impacted that as well. But, New Zealand Rugby had reserves of about $100 million. And the Lions tour boosted that, or it got it up to that, either that, or, so, there or thereabouts. But ever since, it's just been going down and down and down. So, dipping into reserve contributions. So
historically, the way that essentially New Zealand Rugby works is that they make a profit once every 12 years with the Lions, and then that pays off and that then gets drawn down on for the next 11 years. And that's just not sustainable going forwards. So they lost about half of their cash reserves due to COVID, and they're looking at report again. This is all reportedly because it's not being made public, but about 200 of the 430 odd or 450 odd, whatever it is, million would be going straight into cash reserves. Is the argument there, and you can see, having had a COVID incident now, why they need to do that. But is that money that's actually going to grow the game? No, it's not. Then try and grow the game with the other 250 odd. But to me, at the end of the day, you're right. It comes down to governance. If the money is spent well, it is the right option to take. If the money is not spent well, then you've given up 15% of your income for the rest of your life for money that you just wasted. And that's my worry about this.
But the thing is that you're 100% right. Absolutely. That's any business in the world, right? Any business in the world goes to the bank, borrow some money. You go to the Bank of Silver Lake. So you go to the bank, you get this money, and if you don't utilize that money properly, then your business is stuffed. So there's no different there. But at the end of the day, I think the one thing's for sure: if they don't take the money, they are stuffed. Whereas with the money, it's now in their hands as to whether they do good governance. In terms of that 200 million or 250 million in reserves, that's actually that's a good thing, because if they invest that properly and invest that well, that should be returning them at least 10%, possibly more. That means you're getting $20 million out of your reserves every year as well.
True. Now, Simon's putting a thing here, say, hey, has anyone looked at the private equity for Italian football and how that works? Now, I guess, look, I've listened to a good podcast this week with a guy who has been involved in running rugby and running various other sports as well in this one, and including sort of netball and things like that. He says, look, any sport comparing to football doesn't work because you're not football. Football is the only truly global sport in the world. What it does and what it can do, purely because of the size of its market, other sports just cannot replicate. So you do not use football as a comparison because it's not a like for like thing there. So unfortunately, we can't look at that. That's not a good sport.
Sorry. How does that compare with American sport though? Because I mean, I don't know all the in-depth information, etc. But on the surface of it, and I could be absolutely totally wrong, but American sports, the highest level, I'm not talking about below the highest level, but the highest level seems to be much more financially successful than, say, soccer. Which soccer just basically, when you look at, say, we look at the recent ructions in Europe. If you look at the UK, it's only six teams, is it, in the UK that are actually successful teams, and they're the ones that are being, yoinked, and we're looking at setting up that Super League. So it's not like when you go to American sport and you take NFL, for example, it's pretty much every NFL team actually makes good money and has good turnover.
Sure. Now, look, if you look at just before our football knowledgeable fans kick off here, those 6 teams are going to go away were the big sort of named teams, not necessarily the teams that were successful on the pitch recently.
No. I'm not. When I say successful, I'm not talking about on the pitch. I'm talking about money because
financially, exactly. Yeah,
financially.
So, now, I guess the big difference here, and this comes back to part of Arun's point. Unfortunately, ideology does not make you money. Very true, it doesn't. The problem is that rugby, football, etc. We don't see them as being a business. A lot of people in New Zealand will say, "Oh, we own the All Blacks." No, sorry, you don't own the All Blacks. New Zealand Rugby own the All Blacks, and you are a customer of New Zealand Rugby. Now, it's not the way that New Zealand Rugby tries to sell itself, because, hey, that's bad for business. And we just don't look at sports in the in New Zealand, in Australia, in the UK, and also really perhaps or in Europe, basically as being a business. If we look at in the US, though, American football is made for television, and they say that outright. This is a sport that is made for television, and
the advertisers,
and well, and by that, yes, but so from that point of view, it's a very different. People understand it is a business. It has proper wage control, right? Which just about no other sport in the world does outside the States. And that's the problem. If you don't get wage control sorted, your sport will not be financially viable. And let's be blunt, rugby does not have wage control sorted. Even where there are salary caps, they are way too high for the market for the income that is being generated for those teams to be anywhere near financially viable. The only slight exception. This podcast I listened to, I've gone blank as to who it was on it, and unfortunately I wasn't going down this route, or at least not to this depth. Was
my fault.
He just basically said that the only domestic markets that can support a domestic league, basically England, France, and Japan. Nobody else can support a domestic league. Every other country, has to have a cross-border competition, and as soon as you go cross-border, you don't have the same amount of rivalry. You don't have away fans. It becomes much more difficult to organise it.
That's why I still think. That's why I still think that again, with the governance side of thing, and looking at competition in New Zealand, there's still this thing called the NPC in this country that if they got the formula right, they allowed and they could make that into quite a television market sellable product. It could be something really sensational if they could work it out. But I don't think the brain power is there at the Kremlin to be able to sort something like that out.
The market just isn't here to sustain full-time professional wages. We're just too small a country.
No. But with the Silver Lake deal, you've got a base funding there. You'd have to. I mean, you go out there. You got to come up with the super competition. Basically, it'll be based in New Zealand. And the fact is that your aim is not about getting fans through the gate. It's about selling TV rights. You create this competition that maybe it's going to have 4 internationals per team. That can have, you're looking at the objective is to sell it globally. Is something that everybody wants to see, and that's the thing. And then it's like people say, "Oh, you're dreaming." It's just like, well, you have stretch objective. You look at it, you do your feasibility, and then you look at how do you make this happen, and then you sort of come back. It's like, yeah, we can, or no, we can't. But nobody ever does that. They just put it on the rubbish heap to say, "Oh, that doesn't work," and it's just like, no, not at all. I mean, you look at what the major competition to sport in this country is for rugby is the NRL, okay, and it's just like it is. You're going to say basketball or something like that, are you? Or
it might have been the NRL, but it's going to be basketball.
Well, yeah, but it's not yet. Don't get wrong. It's not yet. I mean, you go, and I mean, I can't talk for the rest of the country, but if you look in Auckland, again, you go around water cooler talk around sports on a Monday morning will be about NRL games. Will not be about Super Rugby. Will not be about basketball, and it will not be about any other. It is still about NRL.
Yeah, and there's definitely a lot better work that can be done. But I still don't think I just think that New Zealand doesn't have a big enough market for the NPC to say. But I understand you saying, look, yeah, do a proper feasibility study on it. But I think that's what they would end up coming back with.
Mm.
A cross-border one with Australia. Look, the NRL have shown it does work. There is enough population there, right? So yes, a cross-border one with Australia and New Zealand has got the market, can be a viable professional sport. And it's a matter of making that happen, and it's like having the right brains trust at the top to make it happen. Which
I don't believe that the caliber of people to run the game in this country are actually there in the organisation.
And in all honesty, that ends up being the biggest pro selling point for Silver Lake, because one of the people, I can't remember which one it was now, who was backing it, said, "Look, Silver Lake is good at hiring people. Look what they've done to Man City." Right? Silver Lake are good at hiring the right people to run the business. Now, it sounds like a New Zealand rugby person is being lined up to run the joint-owned commercial piece, which is disappointing but not surprising, rather than a Silver Lake person. But we'll have to see how that progresses more long term. But
yeah, look, it'll be interesting, I think, in terms of how much influence Silver Lake actually has, because I can't remember the exact numbers. Paul, you might know, but I mean, what's the board? How many seats on the board? Is it 15?
Well, no. But hang on.
No. I'm not talking about Silver Lake. I'm talking about what is on New Zealand Rugby's board. How many seats are there?
Oh, I'd have to go and have a
whatever it is. Yeah, whatever that is, Silver Lake are only getting 2. So that's still only 2 votes around the table, which means the other New Zealand Rugby identities on the board outnumber the Silver Lake board representatives. So, there's still an element of control there for the New Zealand Rugby people versus the Silver Lake people.
Yep. So it's nine board members are currently there.
9. Okay, so you got 7. You got a 7-2 majority.
Well, you're assuming here that they actually replace people and don't just grow it to 11.
Okay, so there's a 9-2 majority.
Yeah. Either way, yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see. But yeah, I don't. Having seen the past record of the board of New Zealand Rugby, that's my main concern. And then therefore, so anyway.
100%. I mean.
So we'll just have to wait and see. A good point. Yeah, New Zealand Rugby doesn't give a power away easily. Look at some the Super Rugby franchises. Yeah, no, absolutely. They're being used a little more leeway this time with the redo of the franchises this year, and immediately we have seen the franchises, or the different teams doing new and interesting things around things like digital memberships, for example. So you're definitely seeing a change this year as soon as they have the new franchises where they're allowed to do more things, such as look at overseas fan bases, which I don't think they were allowed to do previously, and hence off they go with their overseas memberships or out-of-town memberships that you've seen. So look, you're right that New Zealand Rugby does not give up control at all. It hates to. It is a very conservative with a small c organisation, right? It does not.
I think you mean conservative with a big C.
Well, it might be that as well, but look, it doesn't. It doesn't like change, and if it doesn't do change, it has to be their way and under totally under their control. And they don't like anybody else talking about them because they're scared of damage to the brand, unfortunately. But anyway,
yeah, and they don't push the boat out. We got to move on to other stuff.
We should do, I guess. So
we've spent 20 minutes on that one.
Well, that was news item number 1. That wasn't even a discussion point. Next, so apparently the Crusaders are interested in playing a game in Wollongong, according to Simon. That's interesting. So we'll see if that happens. We do know that one of the Highlanders games at the moment is venue TBC for the Trans-Tasman. and we do know that the Hurricanes are taking a game to Nelson. So not Nelson. That would be a silly place to take it to. The Hurricanes are taking it
country.
to Vega.
Which they should. Which they should.
Yeah, it's good.
Just like the Blues should take a game to Northland.
Yep. But they're not going to.
But they're not going to. I don't mind. I'll go. I like going to Eden Park. Win, lose or draw, I still like going to Eden Park.
I mean, taking a game to North Harbour, I think, is a waste of time. But taking one to Northland makes sense.
Taking one to North Harbour has always been a waste of time and stupid. Back in the day, they used to have most of the games at Eden Park and then one game at North Harbour and nothing up in Northland, which was just absolutely bonkers.
I remember those days. My membership ticket's over there somewhere. So that's going on in Super Rugby. So good to see some of the provinces getting out some of the franchises getting out to provinces. The Chiefs have come out and mentioned that they have hired for the rest of the season Liam Messon and Tom Florence.
Mm-hmm.
There. Now, look, with one game left of the Super Rugby Aotearoa, and then you've got obviously Super Rugby Trans-Tasman coming up.
Yep.
Look, I think Liam Messon's a fine one here. Look, you're not wanting him to play too much. You're wanting a guy to come in who's going to be a good influence around the squad. But you know what you're going to get out of him. Tom Florence is actually, I don't know who Tom Florence is. I'm guessing he's a younger guy. Down from Taranaki, and so hopefully he'll hopefully get a shout in some of the games. But you wouldn't want him out there for the final in 2 weekends' time. Unfortunately, Callum Boshier, Mitchell Karpik, and Simon Parker have all had season-ending injuries.
Apparently, Tom Florence has been in the Highlanders previously.
Oh, there we go. How old is he?
Yeah. 22. 22.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, look, just while we're talking about the old Super Rugby side, it's just like, correct me if I'm wrong, but the match, these matches this weekend aren't as dead rubbers as people make out because you carry the points forward into the Trans-Tasman competition.
Don't think you do.
Because they're only playing the Australian teams.
I understand that, yes.
Yes. So then how are they going to work out who goes into a final?
Look, here you are trying to pretend that this Trans-Tasman is a legitimate, authentic competition, not about getting TV money in.
No, I thought there was a final on it, though.
Oh, there is. Yes, between the two top teams.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm pretty sure the points from the Super Rugby. Oh, they don't. Oh,
no,
okay.
That's what I'm getting.
Huh. But that doesn't make sense then. Okay, so it's all about TV. As you
said. Talking about it all being about TV, the Rainbow Cup has kicked off last weekend.
Rainbow Cup.
Or as one podcaster's wife likes to call it, the Rainbow Trout Cup. Which I found amusing today, listening to that today. So yes, the Attacking Scrum, I think that was podcast I was listening to. Now, what a fast for cup of competition this is. So days before it actually kicks off, they restructure it so that actually the European teams will just play themselves and the South African teams will just play themselves. There'll be no crossover games. And there'll be two separate competitions, both called the Rainbow Cup, held individually, separately, over 6 weeks of more derbies. Essentially, folks, the Pro 14 or Pro Rugby or whatever you want to call it. I don't want to call it Pro Rugby because that used to be an American group, but Pro 14 basically said that they have to produce games including South African sides for their TV revenues payout, and hence that's why the Rainbow Cup was put together. They are going to produce games again with South African sides in them, just playing each other, i.e. the Curry Cup yet again, without the Griquas and Pumas this time, or the Cheetahs. So look, again, this is purely down to TV money, and that's why the Pro 14 was cut short, or what ended up being a Pro 12 was cut short, and then they've had to tack these on because basically there's 2 more months of the season to play, so you've got to do something for 2 months. Otherwise, where's your revenue coming from? And for South Africa, look, they have to play some sort of rugby before the Lions, and no one else will play them because of COVID, and so they have to play with themselves essentially. So hence, that's what the Rainbow Cup is. So anyone who thinks it's anything more than pre-season, and you can see that with the sides that were put out last weekend of very, very varying standards. I think one team had like 13 players changed from their last game in their starting 15, and hence Leinster lost the first time in 5 years to Munster. Or as the Potholes and Penguins podcast put it, that Munster beat Leinster under 21s. So look, it's unfortunately it's been a bit of a mess for this one.
This isn't, just on to look at this for South African rugby. It's not really looking good for them in terms of how they wanted things to pan out, and they were going to enter the European competition, and this is going to be great, and it's much better for them than Super Rugby. Not really panning out for them the way they'd really hoped, is it?
Well, no, but having their own variant that everyone else is scared of COVID hasn't helped them.
Absolutely.
There is still a commitment for the Pro 16 to go ahead next season. So I think we are looking at some. I think it will get there eventually. Now,
I don't know. I'm still not convinced. The reason I say that is because we've talked about this before. If you're a European team playing a European team, it's a hour and a half, 2-hour flight tops type thing, right? It's not a 2-hour flight from Durban to Edinburgh. And time zones, viewing wise, might be very similar and close, but travel is going to be a big factor. And how many years the South Africans didn't like coming to New Zealand. How much are the European teams going to like traveling to South Africa when they've got a competition that brings in the TV dollars for them? Oh, okay, so they're bringing the South Africans to bring in TV dollars. So right, win-win.
So good podcasting there. So let's let's just do an explanation here. So yes, the Pro 14 essentially doesn't make money, and has been and this is the Ireland, Wales, Scotland, and Italy competition, and essentially that's been because the Irish teams are really good and everyone else isn't at the end of the day, and so the Irish teams, for a picking point of view, it's been one of the most predictable and good leagues for me financially on the old DrivingMaul versus the bookie historically. Because basically you just back an Irish team if they're playing anybody else, and they win, and you basically you say that the Italian team will lose, and essentially you're going to be right. It gets a bit more complicated when you're talking about Scottish teams playing Welsh teams, or Welsh teams playing, and obviously, but aside from that, it's very simple as to who's going to win, who's going to lose. So that has basically turned off fans. They are on a streaming only service, so they're not taken up by Sky or by BT or any of these sort of, I guess, proper broadcasters. And yes, they make a lot less money than the others do. And hence, that's why bringing the South African teams in, which hopefully will be competitive with the Irish teams, and B, a big TV market, even if the rand is worth about tuppence. It's about making it a more competitive league that is more appealing to fans. Now, having that mix up of basically having to get on a plane to get to any away games and stuff doesn't really work. But so it's a bad one there. Jordan,
yep.
Sorry, go on.
I was just going to have to go back to Aaron's comment about Liam Messam coming back, because it's like he should know what's going to happen. The Blues will be leading by 2 points with the time up on the clock. Liam Messam will run from their own 22 and score the winning try. It's written in the scriptures.
Well, yes. Jordan Clark, what's all this carry on about Northern Hemisphere clubs not releasing players for line selection? Are the 4 unions not seeing eye to eye at the moment? The 4 unions are seeing eye to eye. Just the English clubs are not seeing eye to eye with the unions, on the grounds that, hey, we pay these players, and therefore you need to give us more than £40,000 per player, we think we should be getting about £250,000 per player. It's like, what planet are you on? So basically, yes, the English clubs are trying to say, hey, look, football's really successful as a Premier League. We think we can be really successful ourselves on our own. No, you can't, because there's not enough fans of football in England. Sorry, rugby in England. There's lots of football fans. Stop comparing yourself to the English Premier League. It's not what's going to work for you guys. So yeah. So there's that. There is that piece. Yes, I know you'd like to have Carlos back to the Blues. And looking at your fly half options, I fully agree with you.
Our fly half.
So the Rainbow Cup, a bit of a joke, really. Moving on then, Super Rugby AU suspensions. Boy, oh boy. So Tavita Kirandrani, goodbye. You're out for the rest of the season.
It's a bit frustrating, that one. It's a bit frustrating, but at the end of the day, it's the correct decision.
Absolutely, he should have been red carded in the game.
Yeah, it should be red card in the game. We agreed with that.
Yep.
On Sunday night.
So he's gone for 3 weeks. Nazarani and Famasili, who did pick up red cards, both are out for 3 weeks as well. So as
Nazarani doesn't play anyway.
As well, yes, as someone has said, oh boy, I bet they'll be upset missing a couple of club games before Super Rugby Trans-Tasman starts.
Oh, hang on, wait. Back over here, all suspensions like that have happened have had to be at Super Rugby level. Australians not doing that, considering that Super Rugby Trans-Tasman's coming along.
Well, who knows what's actually going to happen and what is just a joke on Twitter to start off with. So it was a bit of a joke on Twitter. I don't know whether it's true or not. I don't know which games will actually be suspended for. Now, that was under the old Super Rugby when it was a whole piece, right? Now we're talking about different competitions where actually they actually might have played Club Rugby in between. Who knows? Whereas it depends on how long it is until Trans-Tasman kicks off. But so yeah, we'll just have to wait and see which games they do miss. And in all honesty, if they do miss, I don't think anyone's going to be too. I mean, is Nazarani going to basically be the difference between winning or losing for a team? Yeah, I don't think it's going to be doing that one. Good question for which rules apply for the Trans-Tasman comp. Typo there, sir.
Maybe it's sponsorship. Maybe it's sponsorship.
Good point. Now, so both competitions have the goal line dropout. Both competitions have it might be, yes, as is the stupid 20-minute red card. Both competitions have that as well. So I think it's fairly safe to assume they'll run with those rules. The Captain's Challenge is a Super Rugby Aotearoa only, so we'll see whether they run with that one. And then both teams have different versions of Golden Point. Well, both countries have. So will we be going? So over in Australia, it's Golden Try. Everyone was too negative with Golden Point in Australia and basically try not to lose and just get the draw. Whereas over here in New Zealand, we're still Golden Point. Also over here, it's an extra. I think it's extra 10 minutes, isn't it? In
5.
one block.
Was it? Oh, okay. I don't know.
And I think in Australia, it's 2 halves of 5 minutes. So again, slight variations of the same theme. So I don't know what rules they will apply. With the amount of communication between, or how New Zealand Rugby and Australia Rugby seem to communicate, and they probably haven't agreed yet as to what the actual rules are going to play this comp with. To be honest,
the captains will come together before the game to decide what they want to rule on. One bounce, one hand.
Now, interesting, if the Rainbow Cup had Captain's Challenge, or as one podcast, as Potholes and Penguins called it, the coach's 10-second water boy rush on challenge, as the water boy runs on to tell the captain to do a Captain's Challenge. So we'll have to wait and see how this works with that. Now, I'm hoping Barnard will join us soon so we can talk about Gisborne Rugby, but he's not here yet. I'll check on Facebook and we'll have a quick chat about so yes, I want you to join now, please, sir.
Right about now.
Right about now, we good.
There he is.
And here he is. So yes, brilliant. Good timing there, Barnard.
Kia ora. Good evening. Good evening.
Kia ora.
Thanks, Paul.
Great to have you on.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. Glad to be here. Yeah.
And we can see you with your East Coast, repping the East Coast there with your T-shirt over there. So over in Gisborne, you I mean, obviously, not obviously, sorry, but as I know, you do get involved a lot in community rugby and in touch. I want you to give us a quick rundown of some of the stuff that you get up to over there in Gisborne.
Yep. Good evening, team. See us in Gisborne here. This is our third round of rugby. That's Premier Rugby and Senior Ones. That's the B grade. Second week, and they did it quite differently for Senior Ones. They took the concept of what the New Zealand Rugby Union did not so long ago. Was that 3 something or other? So yeah, we did it a bit like that. Half time you played another team and 40 minutes playing the other team and so on and so forth. It's quite a good concept. So for Senior Ones. And
so,
for
hang on. So you're the actual competition itself. Senior Ones are playing games of 3 halves.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, yes. They took that concept and actually sort of invoked a little bit of happiness or different just to what the usual per se is. You know, people. I think they're over what's happening over the last 100 years. So yeah, they just look for something a bit new, and we're quite happy. The usual slackers. I said we have heaps of attitude here, and you usually slack. That's the type of rugby that we've got in Gisborne. You're only as good as your environment, you know. It's quite hard to say how rugby is in Gisborne here. We've taken a hit over a lot of years.
Okay, so a lot, but not about COVID itself. So, I mean, how are numbers in club rugby from a COVID point of view? Are they all the same sort of levels they were pre-COVID?
Less.
So
numbers, but it's not due to COVID. It's our region struggles to find a happy attitude to progress in life. We're not just Gisborne and East Coast as well. We're struggling. We struggle to get people off the couch. So yeah, that's the very first thing is getting people off the couch and then getting them involved. It's not just rugby. It's across all sports. There's 5 premier teams in Gisborne. 5 premier teams, and up the East Coast, I think we have 7 premier teams. Hicks Bay being the smallest union in the world has a premier team. Yeah. But I went to training tonight. I went and watched the game on the weekend. There was two, the top of the table clash. Let's say, OBM beat the champions from 2020 a couple of weeks ago. So they were coming in this week quite happy, you know, quite on top of the world at the moment. OBM, which stands for Old Boys Maris, they played YMP, Young Māori Party, around 100 odd so years YMP has. And YMP had 1 win out of 2. So yes, YMP took the reins on that one, 31-14 to YMP. Yeah, it was quite a very forward orientated game, this one.
I've got a different. Senior Ones is the is the reserve one, is it? So I've got the wrong results up here. Sorry, dear me. I was trying to do my best. And Senior Ones sound to me like the top level, but no, obviously clearly not. How confusing.
Premiers is the top. Premiers is the top grade.
Right, I will go and grab that while you talk.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, East Coast had a state of rugby on the East Coast in Gisborne here, Poverty Bay here. They closed down rugby for the weekend a couple of weeks ago due to a couple of things: referee abuse, sideline abuse. Very first time in history that it ever happened, and that came from our president. Oh, not our president, from our CEO, Kushala Tungaire. She happened to say it on Radio Ngāti Pro. So there's a link up on Facebook under the Radio Ngāti Pro to have her saying that, unfortunate to have these things happen in our region, in our rohe. Very first time in history this has happened. So yeah, yes.
So a good positive move though. Good positive move
Yes,
to
Ashwin,
actually
yeah.
say no, it's not good enough, and
Yeah.
you know, to stamp it out and saying you want to play the game, then play the game in the right spirit.
Yeah, bang on the money, bro. Bang on the money. Yeah, exactly true. Yeah, that's just like Alatrell Mitchell with the racism stuff, you know.
Yep.
If you don't say anything, that's your fault. But once you draw your line in the sand, it's
Then, yeah,
squashed.
exactly. Yep.
And
That's it.
yeah, we deal with it, and how we deal with it, if you don't know, you just build yourself with resources from other people that have dealt with that before, that experience before, and you build your resource or your kitty like that, and you work through it together. I'm not too sure whether you toss people out, but there's always a road to move forward from these sort of things. And last weekend was quite good. Yeah, no complaints. Sideline behaviour was cool. Yeah. So onwards and upwards.
Now, look, I mean, it's a scary move to do an extreme step like that, but once you do it, yeah, people see us. No, we're serious about it.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, I think it's what we've been saying around the player behaviour on the pitch as well. Is that look at Super Rugby level, if you were to tell every player to shut up, apart from the captain, and to yellow card them as soon as they talk to you, it would stop overnight
pretty quickly.
And yeah, if you keep saying, "Oh, we'll tell you off if we find the right culprit, that culprit gets banned from rugby." Now, if you just say, "Right, there is no rugby unless you all behave," then the peer pressure will get people to behave a lot better, which I think is it's a brave move, but it's definitely the right move. So good on her for making that call.
Yeah, yes, you both are right. Mustn't have been easy, but they have a whole committee. We have Bailey Mackey. I heard you talking about how many seats there's that place going to get two seats. Yeah, well, we got one, Bailey Mackey. He's from the East Coast. He's on the New Zealand board, and Kushla Tangaire, she's on the Māori board.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah, we got that's on our East Coast rugby board. So it would have been a hard decision for them both, but not taken lightly, and it's been received quite well across our region here. So rugby back on track for our people, and up the coast. To tell you, there's nothing else more that the people up the coast get excited for, going to each other's place, because it's not just a war on the field. We are warring in the kitchen. Who has the most kina? Who has the most power? Who has the most crayfish? Who has the most kahawai snapper? Yeah, oh boy, who's the best cheesecake? Oh no, I just put that in there for my own sake. But it's like
Putting it out there.
It's a war. It's a war in the kitchen. So yes, because that's how we were treated. We treat people back in the old days. You're either going to war to kill each other, or you're coming to have a kai. And that's food probably comes before rugby in our region. So it's a battle of the kitchens.
So it's good to know that. So basically, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you can have all this going on the field, but as soon as that final whistle goes, everybody's having a good time over a good kai.
Yeah, yes. If you can leave it all on the field.
Yep.
But this one didn't stay, or it came off the field too. But other than that, yes. Yes, you're exactly right. Because on the coast here, that's exactly what we do after a game. There's a kai prepared at our Maraiwa at your club rooms for the Manuhiri visiting team. So we still hold that tradition too on the East Coast here. Yeah.
Hey, so Aaron mentioned before about Rua Tapoki, and is he still involved there in rugby here in the East Coast? Or
I see this. Sorry, Aaron. No,
right.
Yes and no. Yes. Well, we played over 35. So every year we have a over 35s game versus Poverty Bay. Before the Poverty Bay and East Coast game on Queen's birthday. So he's sort of involved like that. But no, he lives on Waiheke Island. And that's so down the road from the Mad Butcher.
Yeah, and has a drink, has a coffee with Graham Henry.
yeah, has a coffee. Oh boy, they might have a few. They see, but yes, Aaron, sorry, mate. To answer your question, no, not so much. Rua Tapoki has much to do with East Coast, but yes, he would be a life member, bro. After them winning the championship a few years ago.
Yeah.
So he did really well, him and Narimu Simpkins. But Rua lives in Waiheke Island, so him and his family, they look after their children, because a couple of their sons are pretty good. Manahi and I forgot the older son's name. I do quite well at rugby. So yeah, that's where Rua Tipuki is, Aaron. Sorry about that.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, that's all good. No, we don't worry. As you say, you had some interviews from those from that East Coast. Sorry, from the YMP versus OBM ones. Look, I haven't fully listened to both of them yet, but what I've heard has been very good. So, folks, look out. Those interviews that Barnard did the weekend will be going up on the New Zealand Sport Radio Facebook page. So look out for those coming out, because so yeah, had a chat with the head coaches of both those two teams, and it was a very good chat. I say what I've listened to so far.
You know, the state of rugby is sort of just emulated on how the Hurricanes come down and give their coaching workshops. You know, like or how the All Blacks play. You know, like their structure 1-3-3-1 or 2-4-2 or whatever the structure is for the All Blacks. It's as simple as rugby. It's just a, here, bro, you take the ball up and you smash. And if you can get that mentally in your head, that's what you got to do all day, then that's how a team wins. Everyone can be the same fitness. This is what the mental game is for each team, you know, like, or you have a kicker like Damien McKenzie that'll seal it at the end there. But rugby here in New Zealand, like, it's the environment of your rugby. So we get taught by the Hurricanes, or we're a product of Hurricanes region. So they come here and do workshops, or we go out of region if we want to extend your more at coaching and managing. But to tell you the truth, they just try and coach the same. Just you pod take the ball up and try and win that collision or win that ruck, and then you pod take it up and we'll try and switch direction or do a miss pass or a cut. Yeah, it's in my head, rugby is gone. A sort of a rugby that I liked from the past. Probably when we were growing up, there was more. There was not so. There was structure, but it was still able to whatever your eye saw.
Now this is
interesting.
something
That's interesting. That's interesting, because we talked about that on Sunday night with a certain team that plays in blue, and you know, the fact is that they can't play heads-up rugby. They and there's, I don't know, there's on Twitter or on Facebook, there's actually a fantastic snapshot that someone's taken, and you can see Jonathan Ruru's looking out to the left where all the defense is, and out to the right there's no defense left, and he goes to the left where the defense is. And
he went with his trained option.
Yep, that's his trained option, exactly. Yeah,
and that's what we've been having it in our personal rugby chat group we have on Messenger amongst the various hosts on New Zealand Sport Radio, and yeah, we've been talking about that. There's a very good interview from NRL where he talks about a similar sort of thing, that basically, look, what it should be about is, you, as soon as you open the door, as soon as you bend the line, then you should have a couple of options that you switch to. But you shouldn't, it's not about having a set of 6 where you do the same thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, it's 1, 2. If that door's open, if that line is being bent, then you switch. You don't have, it's not just a full set 6 that you do in order. You see what has happened to the defense. Have you got front football? And then you make a decision. Do I need to bash it up again to try and get front football again? Or do I need to switch it now and find out where the defenders aren't? And that's those calls, I think have gone out of coaching, or are not as prevalent in coaching at the moment. As you say, it's all about in your pods of 3 or in your pods of 2, whatever it is, bash it up and run through those routines. And yeah, it's leading to perhaps a more physical confrontation of rugby, which is maybe why we've seen more injuries as well.
but more robotic.
And more robotic.
Yes, robotic. Yeah.
Hey, look, Barnard is like, I guess a lot of the players these days that are coming through that we see at younger levels, at youth levels, and that get snapped up and they end up going to the big high schools around the country and the like. But are you seeing any players that are coming through that you sort of think are going to be pushing for higher honours?
Questions? Yeah. I think about this quite a lot, to tell you the truth, because I most of my time now is spent in the youth in primary schools, intermediate, and high school. Okay. So I've sort of changed my mindset in a little while now. So now, before you studied a child, or as a recruiter, you recruited children, because you saw, as soon as you saw them, you think, okay, talent first. Honestly, talent first.
Yep.
Very first thing, if you see a child sidestep half a dozen kids and get through and burn everyone off, then that's a child you're going to get.
Yep.
The other thing is, if you see a big child, you're naturally going to put them prop. This is two coaching mentalities that I do know for a fact.
Absolutely.
Now, what I know and what I see, or what I understand for higher honours, of what you may be alluding to, is you're going to choose a child that has the mental aptitude to make it. I know you may not necessarily groom these two. You're going to put all your effort into any child. I do know this. You can't just leave one or these other children out. You can't leave. But anyway, these two talented child to the one that has the mental, you're going to choose the mental child over the other two talented kids, because unfortunately they may not make trainings, these two talented children. And when they do get the training, they're the class clown, unfortunately, in our region. And these are facts. I have coached at primary, intermediate, high school, and in Blinking Premier Rugby. I've coached this. And fortunately for myself, I've been around the world playing rugby. My father was a Māori player, so we've been built rugby in our family. I've played rugby all around the world. I was in the Navy for a long time. But so anyway, coming back to there are brilliant and talented children. By the time they hit 13 and 14 in our region, gone.
Yeah, sad.
The only pumping ones at the moment are girls. Jordan Tihore, she's off to Japan. One girl, and a couple other girls have gone to Manukura, Ishitahuriwai, which is my niece. She's gone to Manukura, which is a special school, where you get picked up or you apply, and you got to have higher honours at your sports. And hers is MMA or Thai boxing.
Yep.
But if the parents ain't motivated in this region, then the children with talent need sponsors, need real humongous help. So I've finished coaching rugby and been to a particular club. I've created an incorporated society that sits next to the unions that can help. Because the unions, netball, rugby, soccer, hockey, they don't coach in schools. They don't coach in schools anymore. So they do workshops at the netball grounds, at the hockey grounds, at the rugby grounds, at the golf grounds. They do workshops, and that's how they coach. They try and coach the coaches. Because I'm a coach developer too, have certificates too. So this is how we pass the knowledge on. When the workshop comes, you either got a Hurricanes person, or you got a New Zealand netball person, or a person from that or that stature. So that's how coaching is, or coaching is done by the union. So I've set up an entity where we go into schools, as Paul said earlier in the night. We do touch. So I run intermediate and high school touch module, and we coach in intermediate schools and kura kapapa Māori kura. We teach whare kura children there, touch, kiorahi, and rugby at various. Now we're starting at a primary school because we see that primary school children are not getting taught, because the intermediate children and the high school children can't throw and catch a ball.
Oh, okay.
So I have seen this. So to combat this, I have to go back to the start and get our people into the primary school, because parents aren't doing it either. So these are the battles. Yes, Ashwin. Yes, coming back to your question, it's hard to get these kids motivated and interested in rugby. To see the full on, to see the end.
Yeah, no motivation, no hope. They don't see hope.
Well, we had Rico Gear on Saturday. If you might hear in my recording to one of the coaches, right at the start, I was talking to the other coach, and Rico's father decided to walk away. But so Rico Gear was there on Saturday. Bailey Mackey was there on Saturday. So there are people that you can see in our region. Just they don't want to do the hard work. They don't want to do the hard work.
Nobody wants to do that.
But also those guys we're now talking about are what 5, maybe 10 years since they've been professional players. So the role models. Who is now a current professional player in Super Rugby from the East Coast? If you don't have those role models, and you look at the East Coast Heartland Championship team, no one gets picked up from the Heartland Championship teams anymore to go into Super Rugby and become a professional. That's where you go if you're not going to quite make it and you enjoy your rugby, but you're very good.
I'm looking at my son for the answer to your question. I'm looking at him to see who's the pick of the East Coast. Who's East Coast? He's shrugging his shoulders.
See, if you've not got those role models.
No, actually, Paul, I'll disagree with you a little bit there. I think the likes of a Rico Gear even coming in and just being able to talk to the boys and giving them that understanding of what the opportunities are, what the possibilities are. If you can reach one of those kids out there in a school assembly or whatever, you've achieved something. So, and then Rico Gear turning up, they'll still know he's an All Black. They'll still know he's played at the top level.
You're right, bro.
He's played for the Crusaders. Right,
because his children are 12, 13. One of his sons is 13, the other one's 10. So he's still. Yay! Oh, because he's a few years older than me. And yes, he was one of those children. He was talented, but not as talented as someone else. But he had the mental aptitude too. He had it. He had it, Rico. He had it. Uncle Ricky and Auntie Annie Gear, they were awesome parents. His sister Juanita too, and Jose. Jose was basketball, So I'm in the middle. Jose, Rico,
Rico's up top. You then Jose's younger.
Yeah. I'm same age as their sister, but they were choice.
But it's just like it's
I agree. If he's actually being involved at grass at coming in, great. What I'm saying is, are there examples that so that they can see on the TV currently to look up to? Now, look, if Jose Gear is going to schools, that's fantastic. I hope Rico Gear or Jose Gear, if they are doing, then great, wonderful, and I hope they do, because they'll be a great inspiration for those kids. But I'm saying
I know, bro.
But are there?
How do you teach attitude though? You can't teach attitude. The kid's either got it, he grows up with it in the family environment, or he's got it, but you can't really teach attitude, It's really hard.
Well, I'll agree there because, same again as a talented child and not so talented. You got one that's going to go in and tackle, and one that's not.
Yep.
So
somebody else's job.
Yes. Yeah.
I'll just wait for the ball to come out and give me the ball.
Another adult won't. But if I come back to Paul, that's saying about we don't. If you're not going to put your face in schools and be a role model, whether you're on the All Black TV or you're either on East Coast TV or no TV, if you don't get involved with the kids, Paul, you're not going to be a superhero, so to speak, in our region. Our region is about action. So the more the children and the people see you doing good, the better it is for you. Yeah. In
terms of what you said, though, I remember a mate of mine who he went to school in South Auckland, and he said, this is back when we were younger, and Arini IE was running around for the Blues, and he says, he was at school with Arini IE. He says, there was this kid that was much better than him, but he found other stuff, outside of school, and and this is takes him off track, and it's just it's just the most frustrating thing, isn't it? When there's a future for a kid out there, but they're just influenced by other things, and you can't.
Every race has a rubber arm.
That's frustrating.
If only we knew. If we had a time capsule to go forth to come back, man.
Yep. And then you can say, "Hey, look."
Easy.
But I think the other thing here that's important is you've been talking about here is getting into schools. It's all good and well running lots and lots of coaching clinics for coaching the coaches, but I fully believe that actually the way if you want to grow your sport is you get people in the school wearing the jersey, and talking about the sport. Now they can train obviously the sport, but they can also train other sports as well. You can't. We don't want specialization of kids too early. But seeing the jersey, having someone say, "Oh, the local club's done this," or Waikato or the Chiefs or whatever are doing this. That if you want to grow that audience, you want to grow people, fans in the stand, that's the way you do it. Is you do it through kids, and it's going to be a 10 or 15-year project. Your marketing things for how you'll turn up next game, that might work for next game, but it's not going to work for long-term building your fan base. It's got to be in schools. What you're doing is very important.
Hey Bernard, what's the so in terms, we talked about the Hurricanes coming around doing some coaching sessions or for coaches and that. What about East Coast as a union themselves? How are they sort of getting in behind the clubs or organisations and supporting them? What sort of things do they do?
They're similar to Poverty Bay. They just hold coaching clinics and workshops. So we're under the Wellington Hurricane umbrella too.
Yep.
Fortunately, Sir Michael Jones is our patron at the moment, our ambassador to East Coast Rugby. So he comes along to a few workshops and to a few gatherings and to a few funerals and be present like that and talks. They give him as well-deserved spot. Man, he can call it all te reo Māori too. He's pretty choice, Yeah, real. He's pretty fluent, and his pronunciation and his grammar is quite good. Great. He's been practicing.
Because one of the things is that obviously in your area, whether it's Poverty Bay, East Coast, either this is like these vast distances between the clubs as well. So to actually the logistics of getting around to do that support, to hold those coaching clinics, or obviously quite challenging.
Auckland or Wellington. Not so much Wellington or North Harbour. North Harbour's hilly, but I'm telling you, they say in Auckland, it's a hard travel. While on the East Coast, you go from Uwawa to where's my hand here? TVC. That's 3 hours, and it's only 100 kilometers. But it's up and around, and 25s. Oh boy! So you got to leave yesterday.
I'd be getting sick.
You got to leave yesterday to arrive tomorrow, sort of a thing. You have to be very well planned. Not planning is planning to fail. So as a coordinator, you have to be very well planned. If you can get the northern towns to meet at one place, and then have the southern towns meet at one place, and then have the people in the middle meet at another. So you do 3 or 3 workshops instead of trying to cover that space in a little amount of time. But the truth, nothing really. I don't think New Zealand Rugby Union does enough. They told us 2021. They told us at 2011 World Cup that they were going to, he came here to Gisborne and to the East Coast, and he said here, when they win the World Cup, they were going to give more money. I think we won in 2007. Was it 2007 when we beat France 8-7?
11.
And then he came back on the second time, 2011, said, when we win this one, we'll put more resource and revenue into the East Coast and Tūranga or Poverty Bay. Well, not really. You know what happens? They keep taking our players. George Bridge, all of our players keep going out of the East Coast. I know that's what you want to do if you want to become better.
Yeah.
Time out. Are you saying George Bridge isn't from Christchurch?
So there is a local boy who's running around at the moment.
I'll finish school Gisborne. Cheers. His mum and dad still here.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so George Bridge is an example of a player who kids can look up to as an example that that is running around now saying, I could be him. Yeah. To give you an idea, though, if we look at the staff list for Poverty Bay, I can't find it at East Coast. They don't seem to put it on the website, but here's the staff list for Poverty Bay. You've got Josh Wilbur, who's the CEO. Willoughby, thank you. Karen Bryant, the Finance and Events Manager. Ray Noble, Community Rugby Manager. So one person for community. Mahaya Nikora, who's referee and coach development manager. So that's one person for referee and coach.
Yep.
Kaya Tomate, who's player development manager. Christy McKinn's competitions advisor, and Dave McDonald, the groundsman. So they have 7 employees, full stop, right? Of which one of those is for player development, one is for coaches and referees. They're not going to get around, and it's just they just don't have the staff to. There's not one rugby development manager there, whereas you think that Auckland have 4, maybe 5,
one for each of the east, west, south, and north.
Yep, and as you say, geographically, Auckland's much easier to get around. Now there are more people to deal with, but yeah, there's just not the staff there for Poverty Bay to really grow the sport at the end of the day.
So then, also just wanted to before you wrap it up, Paul, I just wanted to ask the question because we talked about the logistics around those coaching. What about on game day? How early does the game day start? And do you go on a bus or do you go in cars to your 3-hour drive? How's that work?
If you're a stable and rich enough club, you hire a bus, or you just throw in $20-$40 each, whatever, for the bus. At the coast, you just drive. Yep. You just stay at whānau's house the day before, and you sleep at the marae the next day. You just drive.
So you might go the day before, the night before, sort of thing. Right? Okay.
Yep. Stay there the Saturday if you're going to booze up. They usually open up a marae, and you booze up and go back to
sleep
the marae.
Over.
Usually like that. And if you don't booze up, you just stay for the feed and the speeches and the aftermatch function. But for the children, you just 8:30, 9 o'clock, children start, and then you wrapped up by 5. Yeah. But you, like I said, there's rugby parks that can cater for those amount of games if there's heaps of children's games. And adults just 3. So 3 games, 3 parks. So yeah. They sort of try and have the children in one zone in Ruatori, which is the middle of the whole shebang. Ruatori. Yep. And Poverty Bay here, just different age groups at different parks. And Poverty Bay here, and they start at the same time, 9 o'clock, 8:30, 9 o'clock. Yeah, they usually start. And unfortunately, sort of the same referees, the referees for the Prems. Yeah, but you try and get the coach for the younger grades. You try and get the coaches to coach, manage,
referee the games. Yep.
Yeah, all the managers to referee the games. And then as we get up into the teenager games, the Poverty Bay Union tries to referee.
Try. Yeah.
We don't. Yeah,
you don't cover all the games. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to grow the game. If the passion is dying out here and just in people, if I put the Union, the New Zealand Rugby Union, Poverty Bay to the one side, and us people, it doesn't matter what bloody sport it is. If you ain't not going to have the passion and the drive to put your children and to your local children or in your neighbourhood there, then that passion in sports will go away. And that's from the people that the children see all the time. And unfortunately, what I also see, teachers don't have the time for sports too.
Nah, not anymore.
They're overwhelmed at school with the amount of measurements they have to take just to meet an English program, a mathematics program, a science program. Yeah, so that's why I created my incorporated society. Moi Moia Aotearoa Incorporated is our society's name. That's why I created that to get funding so we could go into schools and help the schools
to do that work.
Yep. To do that work, yes. Someone could say niche in the market, whatever.
It's the requirement in the market.
Doing it. So we're doing it, and funding is not what we want. It's just to buy the balls and whatnot, or a prize we can give away. So just to grow any sport, like Paul said before, this is what the new thing is. We've been with New Zealand sport for a long time now, and it's been about inclusion, or about growing sport, not by specialising children straight away. Yes, we are a rugby family. Yes, I did that to my children. Yes. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but our luck, that's what we done. That's what we done. Even for my girls. For my girls. Rugby. Oh, yeah, rugby. So
I tried to get my daughter into rugby, but she didn't want to wake up in the morning.
I totally agree with what's happening now. Specialization comes later. You just got to teach them the fundamentals of how to catch a ball, tennis ball, and then throw it. Yeah, so if you can teach them the value, because there's values in everything that you do. There's values, a family has values, a school has values, but there's a value in catching a ball. There's a value in throwing it too, in sports to your teammates and things like that. So yeah, in my head, in my heart, we need sports to help children and adults in society.
100%.
Yep, well, you're preaching to the converted here on that one. Absolutely. And thank you very much, Barnard, for joining us now. Barnard is not only big into in the rugby space, but he's also big in the bomb space as well. So, folks, you might have seen my entry into the Waihi Bomb Comp, my video from that, and that's where Barnard and I caught up. So it's been great chatting to you again, and hopefully we'll be catching up at some bombing or rugby comps in the not too distant future. Probably bombing, to be honest. Thank you very much, Ashwin, for joining me yet again.
No worries. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, everybody. It has been an absolute pleasure learning around hearing about what's been going on there out Gisborne way. And we'll be back next week at 8 p.m. with the Driving Maul show. First half, again, rugby news and hot topics. And the second half, we'll be trying to getting on a club rugby guy and to give the club rugby game some love.
Bye.